So Frank, we're talking about all enemies, foreign and domestic. Run through with us some of the foreign enemies and the implications, and then some of the domestic.
Well, let me just predicate it by saying I swore an oath repeatedly when I was serving in the Senate and then in the executive branch to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's what you're referring to. And the numbers of those enemies at the moment are legion. The obvious and most serious of all, of course, is the Chinese Communist Party.
Above everything else.
Far and above.
Yeah.
But what makes it so much so is that the Chinese Communists are now allied with a whole host of other characters.
Even some that are their natural enemies.
Well, I think that the Russians are frankly going to find themselves at the losing end of a death struggle with the Chinese in due course. But for now, they've had a modus vivendi. Putin and Xi are lashed up. Putin, for sure, the junior partner, the Chinese, the dominant one. But it doesn't stop there, of course. You have the North Koreans, you have the Iranians, you have a whole array of despots in Latin America, most of them out and out communists now. You have the Pakistanis, you have the Taliban. You may have the Indians,
which is shocking because the border issues, Pakistan, and yet somehow they've caught India where they're not siding with the West against Putin.
Well, I think this is the kind of calculation that a lot of countries are making at the moment. Some may go all the way over to joining the enemy camp, but an awful lot of them are just going to sit it out. Even nations that have been allied with us, because they have now reached the conclusion that it's better to be either America's enemy or at least not its friend than to be its ally. And that's a formula for having a lot more enemies or people who are helping your enemies.
For all those who complained about President Trump, my perspective, let's get yours. It seems like the stature in the world did not rise with the election of Joe Biden. It fell dramatically, and people at least had some respect for President Trump.
Yeah. This was one of the great baits and switches of all time, when the Biden team trotted out that they were going to have all these adults and they were going to be the professionals and they were going to be people you could absolutely have confidence in. Yeah. America would have a renewed standing in the world, would be engaged and so on. The truth of the matter is, as you say, from the get-go, basically our adversaries as well as our friends were recalculating. We had a weak individual. Many of them had taken his measure in the past as a senator, as a vice president. They knew Joe Biden. Vladimir Putin did not even bother to conceal his utter contempt for the man when he was vice president. And Xi Jinping spent a lot of time with him and certainly understood his weaknesses as well as the fact that he's on the take to the Chinese communists. But you look at this larger pattern, and that weakness has now been made absolutely manifest. We talked about Afghanistan a moment ago. You can't imagine a more impactful message being sent of, as I say, weakness, irresolution, as well as a seeming determination to make things as bad as they can. You know, the communists have long had the expression, the worse the better. They'll benefit from things being as bad as they can be made. That seems to be the script that is being followed by the President of the United States and his team.
Yeah, it looks like, I never thought in my lifetime or anyone's lifetime that we would see a more tragic ending than Vietnam, but I think we just did.
We did.